This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources. We power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to three members of the House of Delegates. Delighted to have you all on This Week in Richmond. I was telling a friend that I was going to have the three of you on, and I said it's not really an exit interview because you're still on the job, but all three of you, each of you has announced that this will be your last term. Delegate Joe Johnson from Abingdon, Delegate Annie B. Crockett-Stark from Withville, and Delegate Jim Scott from Fairfax. I appreciate you all being on, and at some point in the conversation, I'd like for you to reflect on the time that you've served. But if you'd like to start, we could start with issues of this session that's about to end. We can tell our viewers we're having a conversation on the day before the reconvene session. By the time they see you all and hear your discussion, the session will have ended. But what about this particular session? Anything that you'd want to say about this session? Delegate Johnson, how's this session been for you?
Well, it's been great, David, and we appreciate and do thank you for having us on this program today. This past session was a difficult one for me. Transportation is a great thing. We need money for transportation. Everybody agrees that, but I didn't vote for the transportation bill because I felt like sales tax was not the way to go, adding more tax on people and some of the things. On the health care, I voted yes for that. I think there are so many people out there that have needs, and the program is good if it's properly handled. And I felt like if the Commonwealth of Virginia took it on to administer, that it would be done properly and right, and it would be good for the people.
Annie B., how was the session for you?
Of course, I had the same issues as Joe, and we basically have the same people. Southwest Virginia is a large family. But I had some other issues also, transportation issues. I had school buses going down Fancy Gap Mountain on Interstate 77, and as you know, Sunday they had a 95-car pile up there because of the dense fog and the rain. And all year we've had school buses that have had to have police escort because of the speed on that mountain and because of the dense fog. And so I had a bill in to get the school children over on Highway 52, which used to be the only road down, a curvy road. But we finally got the resolution to get our children off that highway. And I wanted to thank VDOT and the state police because by 5 o'clock in the morning, when they realized how deep the fog was, the signage was up asking people to slow down and use caution. And sadly, people don't always read signs or listen, and we had 3 deaths and about 25 injuries that were hospitalized, and about probably a 6 or 7 hour holdup of traffic in both roads and detours. So there's always highway problems. They never are ending, of course, and but we deal with them, and we hope to get something else done there to maybe make it safer.
Thank you. Jim, how was this session for you?
Well, I think probably two primary issues were health care and transportation. And for transportation, I think most of us in my part of the world were in favor of the bill that passed. A little bit apprehensive about some of the governor's amendments that he submitted this time, because I think it may cut back on the funds that we in Northern Virginia at least will receive for transportation. But as you know, David, and I'm sure all of us here recognize that transportation is a statewide issue, and in Northern Virginia particularly difficult now that we've got so many people using our roads and so little funding for repairing potholes and building new facilities. But I do think the governor's original plan was better than what he's offered with the amendments. We'll be cutting back on some funding for our areas, I'm afraid. But the good news is that there will be additional money, and on the health care field, I think, as Joe said, you know, it's a very complex issue. Initially, I thought we would have a state exchange, but that doesn't seem to be what we're headed towards now. It looks like we're headed towards more sort of the federal exchange that we'll have some input into. But at any rate, we need the funding. We need the money for the people of very limited income. That's one of the great advantages of the health care reform bill, that funding will be available not from state coffers, but federal coffers for the Medicaid funding for the poor kids and poor families. And I think that's a great step forward.
I do think what the governor did in setting up a committee, we have to be sure that we have the reforms our state needs, and to jump into it without those reforms would not have been the right way to go, in my opinion. That you have to have some control over your own state health.
So this session, going back to you, Delegate Johnson, is your 28th year.
Yes, sir.
In the General Assembly.
And I might add, the transportation bill originally, when it was in the Finance Committee, I'm on the Finance Committee, I voted it out of the Finance Committee. I thought it could be improved and made better. I thought we needed some relief, and it was my hope that the users of the highway would pay it, not those people that would be burdened with additional sales tax that didn't use the road upon them. And had it continued or been financed by users' fee, tax on gasoline, those that use the highways, I would have continued to support it, but it got worse rather than better, which meant that I voted against it because it just really wasn't what it should be. The users are not paying near as much, or not as much of the burden as those people that have no automobile. They're financing it.
You know, since the session adjourned, I believe one of the states that's a neighbor to your part of Virginia, Maryland, is moving forward to increase their gasoline tax by 10 cents or some similar amount.
Right.
So doing more of what Delegate Johnson was saying, making it really strictly a user fee.
Yeah, and you know, that certainly is ideal, but given where we've been and how long it's taken us to get to where we are, I think many of us, at least in my part of the world, with some hesitation, decided this is the best we were going to get at this time, and we've waited so long to get anything seriously on the table. I think most of us in Northern Virginia decided. There were a few who disagreed, but most of us voted for the bill.
I must tell you something. This was a cousin sent me a stack of papers from the House of Delegates in 1940. And my granddaddy was in the house, and it was letters to and from him. And a farmer had been hit in his truck by a young boy in a car, and had no liability insurance. And the letter said it's time that everybody that drives a vehicle should be insured with liability. Mr. Crockett, you must do something about this. Other than that, it was still literary funds for building schools, teacher retirement, and transportation. The world doesn't change very fast in government.
1940s. 1940s.
1940s.
Well, Annie B., you said you told me that you had some writing you were going to do, and so you've got a real treasure there in having those letters.
Yeah, they were going to throw them away. They live in Yorktown. I said, no, send them to me. I'll pay for the postage. But, right, I have some plans as a retiree. I felt like, that I have served once on town government, 1 term, and 2 on county, and 4 here. And I'm going to finish a children's book with a sister-in-law that someone in our family started before they died. And I'm also wanting to write up some genealogy and some family history. And I'm going to Iceland later this year to get in those nice thermal pools. Oh, wow. And I have a mission trip planned to Joplin, Missouri for building for where they were wiped out with tornadoes last year, Habitat for Humanity. So I have some things that I'm looking forward to doing. I did a bucket list last year when I hit 70, and I forgot to put stress on it.
You mean eliminating stress? Right. Delegate Johnson, you have a unique General Assembly history because you served back in the 1960s.
Yes, sir. I was elected in 1965 and served until 1970, at which time I didn't seek re-election in 1969. I had a young family. I had a son, a daughter, very young, and I just felt like that the family was more important than government, so I didn't seek re-election in 1969, and I'm so happy that I didn't. I just had a great time. And my legislative journey, well, I did nothing until 1989, and our youngest child decided, the son, was in college, and I decided I'd run again. So I ran in 1989, and I've been re-elected every 2 years since then. I've had no opposition, so people have been very kind. I've never had a fundraiser. People have been very kind, and
Wow.
I just want to thank the members of the legislature. You know, I had a bump in the road or two with cancer, and I took 2 years of chemo, and the members of the House of Delegates were very good to me, and the Speaker, Bruce Jamerson, and Speaker Nardo have been most kind to me and put up with me. And when I was not able to attend maybe a meeting, someone took care of my work, presented my bill. I missed very little. I get up early in the morning, travel to Richmond, and a lot of times with a portable chemo thing on me, and vote and then go back to Abingdon that night, chemo the next morning. But God's been very good to me. It's been a great journey, and I've learned so much, and I've been able to participate in so many things. And I don't take credit for any of it. It's not I, it's we. I think about the Higher Education Center in Abingdon. I think about Hartwood in Abingdon, and I think about the community college in Abingdon, Highlands Community College. And I remember 1968 when we passed the sales tax. I voted for the sales tax that provided funds for the community college. And after the session, I go back, and there's people on the front door of the courthouse met me, and some old timers, the loafers at the courthouse, and they said, "Joe, understand you voted for that sales tax?" And I said, "Sure, I did." Said, "I want to tell you one thing, you'll never get reelected again." And of course they were right. I wasn't not reelected the next time, and they also told me that community college will not amount to anything. And I wish they were here today. It would just, it's been the community college and the Higher Education Center and the Hartwood. It's just been a blessing to Southwest Virginia. A lot of people worked hard to make those things happen. And I appreciate all the work that the people, cooperation, partnership. It just meant a lot to me that I had so many delegates that stuck with me.
You know, you talked about what they were telling you that you wouldn't get elected again. Well, you didn't choose to run, but there is that. I think you bring a good historical perspective on it. There's sometimes that fear that if you vote for a tax increase, you won't get reelected. Yeah. But I don't know, even back then, that there were many legislators who lost their position because they voted for the sales tax to get the community college systems funded.
No, I don't think so. I never signed a no tax pledge. I thought it was wrong to tie my hands to not do something that I felt that was right. Now, politically, I tried to toe the line with a party, but if it came down to moral issues or what I thought was good or bad, I left my party more than once, many times. And I got rebuffed, but I was able to sleep at night because I felt like I did the right thing.
Thank you. Thank you. And Delegate Scott, Jim Scott, you're now serving 22 years.
Right. But as you know, my first election was a
landslide.
page turner. Yeah, that's right. Not exactly a landslide. We had, at the end of that election, I lost by 17 votes, and we had a recount, and over the next 6 weeks or so, the recount was continuing, and every week or so, the number would get lower and lower, and we finally had a decision made by a 3-judge panel because the margin had gotten down to the question of 1 or 2 or 3 votes. And the final outcome was that the 3-judge panel decided upon the recommendation, well, actually it was their own decision because the lawyers on both sides had come up with their analysis, and the final analysis was I'd won by 1 single vote. And I decided I didn't want to keep that tradition going, so since then I haven't had a problem like that.
Yes.
But it has been a wonderful experience for me as a native Virginian and as a native Southwest Virginian. As you know, I was born in the city of Galax on Main Street, not far from where the Fiddlers Convention is held every year. And so my family knows that they don't have any alternative to consider except the Fiddlers Convention in the second week in August. We're headed south.
All right.
Been a great trip for me, and getting to know people like Annie and Joe in particular has been a great part of my experience in Richmond, and particularly because we're all Southwest Virginians.
Jim and I went down through a mine together.
That's right. That's right. Way down.
Way down in a mine. It was closed down a couple of weeks after we got back, I think. So, well, I haven't been here as long, but I've certainly felt blessed for all the people I've met, and all the things I have learned. You know, it's just amazing. You don't have the luxury of just dealing in one area. You have to, even those committees you're assigned to, you have to deal every day with so many things. And I tell people every day, if I weren't really ADHD, I don't think I could do it all. But I have enjoyed the experience. I have appreciated having the experience. I cannot believe that it has happened. First time I ever stood in front of the GAB building, I was like, what am I doing here? Now, why did I come again? And then, you know, and then it becomes home to you. And it's been an exciting experience. And I just, you know, I think I hope I have other things to offer. I'd come up through local government and do love it, love the people. The people I meet with back home, one of the things I think all three of us understand being from Southwest Virginia is we really do act as their liaisons. They don't know how to get things done in Richmond. They're too far away at 4 and 5 and 6 hours. And so they come to our offices and they depend on us to try to make a difference for them. And many times, you know, like with DMV or a road problem or an education problem. And I'll say this for the community colleges. Everybody in this state's within an hour of a community college. and it has opened up Southwest Virginia. And my uncle Sam Crockett started the UVA Wise. He was stuck there in a snowstorm, and some women got a hold of him in a restaurant. And when they got through with him 3 days later, he went back to UVA, and UVA Wise was needed.
That was a good snowstorm.
And that was a good snowstorm. Education, without healthy kids, you can't have well-educated kids, and without educated kids, we have no future. You can't separate any of this.
Well, let me ask each of you, in any particular order you'd like to answer, if as not an exit interview, because you still got some time that you'll be working, but what do you think would help improve the system for those coming after you? You probably have several ideas, but if you had one suggestion, if you could kind of wave a magic wand or something, change one thing, or try to get one thing changed for the ones who will come after you serving in Fairfax and Withville and Abingdon area, what would you want to change?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think we now have a number of people who have been around for a while and had some experience, and I think that is always very helpful, that the folks like Joe and Annie who've seen a lot of local government as well as state government. And I think maybe one thing that I would like to see is that more people who are interested in state politics come to see us. One of the problems we have is that the voter turnout in the odd years versus the even years is very, very low. And one of the things that I would like to see and have tried to work on is methods to encourage more people to participate in the voting process. I think, you know, in Maryland, the elections are all held on the even years, and there's a big turnout. In Virginia, we are at a deficit for that, and I think we need to work on that problem.
Joe, any thoughts you would have, what you'd like to might be an improvement in the process? Or?
Well, sir, first I'd like to say this year was an unusual year. I think our speaker, Hal, needs a round of applause. He made some very difficult decisions, and I think our session was successful because of his rulings on certain things. And I know it pained him greatly to do what he did, but I think he did the right thing. And I want to commend him for that. He did an outstanding job. Now, I've served under E. Blackburn Moore, John Warren Cook, A.L. Philpott, Vance Wilkins, and let's see, Hal, and Tom Moss and Lacey Putney. To me, Speaker Howell probably did more to preserve the integrity of that office than any other person that I served under. John Warren Cook opened it up for committee assignments other than Democrats, and that was a great thing. To me, the way that maybe we could be more effective is if we had more time. We don't have enough time to do what we need to do. The first session that I was here in '66, I didn't have an office, I didn't have a telephone, I didn't have a secretary, I had nothing, you know. And when I came back in '90, we had this lovely office, secretary, aides, and all that. And that was good. But today, with the demands made upon the legislature, we just don't have sufficient time. That means we've got to pay the legislators more, we've got to pay the aides more, we've got to pay the employees more to get them to work. As a citizen legislature, it's great, but I think we're beyond that point, and we need to do something to make the office more attractive to qualified people. And that's what I would suggest. Let's get up to the plate and do what needs to be done like we did for transportation, and do what's required to keep Virginia #1.
I couldn't agree more with Joe's analysis. I think he's hit most of the
Yeah.
very right on the head.
Annie B., our time's up, so you need to put yours in writing in one of your books that you're going to be writing. Delegate Johnson, Delegate
Well, I
Annie
would
B.,
concur
Crockett-Stark,
with Joe on many things, and
Delegate-
that's one of
Delegate
them.
Scott. Thank you all three for being on This Week in Richmond and for all that you have contributed, a total of nearly 60 years in service here at the General Assembly.
And I hope we'll all be at the Village Convention.
Yes, thank you. Thank our viewers, too.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. KANAWHA Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in the legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.